Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 26th of October, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar index. Dollar it fell off a little bit yesterday towards the end. We just had a bit of a rise, it was just a bit of a pullback, but we are still bullish on all fronts here at the moment. Interestingly, the euro just recovering slightly through the cloud on the price, but not on the lagging line. And still this bearishness of the medium and long term hanging over. The interesting thing is that this downside target to 103 has been activated with this recent sell-off, and more importantly, this level here of 109.60 has been broken, and we've got a new downside target of around 7%. So the euro is looking very bearish all of a sudden. And if we look at the Japanese yen, we see here this is a good proxy for the dollar. Dollar rising, yen strengthening here. So yen just strengthened a little bit towards the end of yesterday, but it's all about dollar strength, and we're clearly through on this chart. A lot of upside targets here, just again suggesting upside as much as anywhere from 1 to 6%. So that's the dollar buying more yen. If we look at the British pound, fell off yesterday in the late afternoon and then recovered a little bit, but we are just constantly lurching down. Small recovery, another lurch down. New downside target of 119.47 activated. That's 2% downside. And more importantly, the upside target that we had off this recovery has been negated by the fall below that level. So it is still looking very bearish for the pound, and we're bearish on all charts here. If we take a look at versus the euro, we see here pound having had a little bit of recovery, now coming back below the cloud. So pound looking weaker again than the euro. And if we look at the Australian dollar, just another proxy for sterling, downside target of 2% to the mid 150s, 154.78, and we see here that we are testing the bottom on this chart as well. Looking at markets, S&P 500 just failed to hold that 2150 level. This is a real line of action at the moment, so closed below that last night. Still bullish above the cloud on all fronts here, but that pullback is still keeping these downside targets in action. But we do have this 2196 target, 2.5% upside. That's the one to play for. If we look at the Nasdaq, bullish, bullish, bullish. Do have an upside target to 49.74 on the Nasdaq 100. That's 1.7% upside. More upside targets in the medium and long term, and more clearly bullish than the S&P. Looking at the futures, it's just coming in London this morning, just coming below the cloud, so a little bit of negativity there, pull back, but there's still an upside trend and targets here on the 60-minute chart. And the Nasdaq E-mini, much the same picture actually. We're still bullish, and we do have upside targets, but we are pulling off a bit there yesterday. Looking at the FTSE this morning, couldn't hold that 7,000 level. It's proving difficult, and we are just really choppy in the short term, all really while US markets make up their mind, and we are entering a period of a few weeks of uncertainty around the election. If we look at the FTSE 250, that is more clearly bearish, making new lows this morning. So the mid caps in the UK just looking bearish in the short term as we make new lows, and downside targets as much as 3%, 2 or 3% downside. So we might see a sell-off in the mid caps that have done rather well since the Brexit vote. If we look at the DAX is just coming through on this weekly chart. We talk about that each day. Just pulling back a little bit here, but this is a bullish above the cloud situation, and upside potential of 3 to 6% as well. Nikkei was up overnight. This market looking quite strong at the moment, making new multi-month highs. Here is the short term above the chart, but we have got this cloud resistance at about 17,900. So we just need to be aware that does hang over us a little bit. So if we look at China, China was not a big move in Shanghai, 0.5% off, 1% off on the Hang Seng. This is starting to look a little bit bearish. Cloud resistance possibly acting here. Much the same with the Sensex, just pulling back into the cloud there. And the Australian market had a really big fall off yesterday, so last night. So we see here making new multi-week lows. So just holding the bullishness above the cloud here, and maybe this long-term cloud is just having a bit of an influence. So we just need to keep an eye on that. Brent, looking at commodities, Brent struggling to get above that 52 level and back now to the $50 mark. Will we hold $50? Psychologically important. There's a line of action through here. We are below the cloud. New downside target of 48.92. That's nearly 3% downside. So it does suggest that we possibly are going back below $50 for Brent. And we shouldn't be that surprised. Oil does have a seasonal factor where it does fall in this part of the year. We're through on the cloud on the daily on WTI here, but not on the lagging line, and clearly bearish here. Downside targets of 2.7 and 4%. So we are seeing that. US nat gas, having looked really good here for a couple of months, just pulled back very sharply. We see here this is the downtrend on the cloud. No clear downside targets, mind you, and we are finding resistance on the weekly cloud here. So good long-term picture, but at the moment we need to wait for this short-term to change. Looking at some of the softs, we saw corn is up 0.5% at the moment. Still bearish below the cloud on all fronts there, so quite difficult to get excited about that. Soybeans looking bullish above the cloud here in the short term. Upside targets not that great, but medium term we still are bearish. Looks like we might be undergoing a long-term recovery here after several years below the cloud, starting to get through on the weekly cloud. So maybe we are seeing a change for softs, and we're seeing wheat here bearish about below all the clouds, but again trying to come through on this daily cloud, which it'll do before it does on the weekly. Coffee up 4% at the moment, so that's a really big move, and we're seeing here that that's taking us through the weekly cloud. On the daily bullish, and on the 60-minute that's bullish as well, very clearly bullish. Upside targets as much as 15% here. On the long-term chart, 13, 14, 18% upside. So we are seeing that there is quite good long-term potential. Not all things are created equal. We look at sugar, for example, the picture is less bullish here as we're choppy around this 60-minute chart. Taking a look at gold, we see here that gold is up this morning slightly, just clawing away back from this sort of mid-1270s mark. We do have these upside targets that are getting closer, but it's struggling, but clawing away. Long-term picture looks great though, above the cloud and long-term targets. Silver tends to lead gold a little bit, up a bit more strongly this morning, and we're seeing here very clearly bullish above the cloud as we tick away as well. Copper still bearish on most fronts, except the short-term picture has changed quite dramatically here. We've still got this resistance. If we make new highs above the 22 2 level, then we might see 248, so that's quite key. Taking a look at US bonds, just pulling back a bit at the moment. Targets to 166 and 168, so we do have some downside potential of about anywhere between 3.5% and 5%. Looking at bellwethers, Apple very strong now. Strong results yesterday. They did pull back in after hours trading, not reflected here, but interestingly, these charts now all bullish. Upside targets, not a lot to play for on the long-term targets. 21% here. But it's the only target, it's a lone target. If we look at Google, we see here bullish on all fronts as well. It's why the Nasdaq is looking stronger. And even if we look at Amazon, we see again it's bullish. And then Facebook, last of all, probably the most bullish of the bunch. Bullish, bullish, bullish on all charts. Lots of upside targets. 23% as much here, 27%, 25%, lots of different targets. But at the moment in the short term, just pulling back, really waiting for the next upside target. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.